Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Beyond the Sewing Room, I'm Diane. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my finished Pilar jacket by Maison Fauve. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. I did have to adjust a couple of things, so I will explain what I did there, just in case you're planning on making this jacket and you might want to watch out for those things also. And one of the things is something I found on a couple of Maison Fauve patterns, but I do love them. But bear in mind we are all different sizes and shapes, so you always need to sometimes tweak a few things just to make it perfect for you. So I am pretty much a standard size, but I have a few things that I need to change sometimes, and one of them being my arms. So I have long arms for my height, I feel. I think this is a family thing because my sons have the same issue with like shirts and jackets and so on. So I have long legs and long arms, but I'm only 5'4". So that is one of the things that I've had to change, and I'll explain what I did in a moment there. Now, I do love the Maison Fauve patterns, so I knew this was going to be a fabulous jacket and a fabulous fit. So I'll show you a couple of the others that I have and that I've made in the past, a couple of the other patterns that is, and I'm going to get straight on now and show you the finished jacket. I'm pointing over here because it's on my mannequin. Now yesterday I just finished it off by putting on the buttonholes and buttons. Now if anything's got buttonholes on it, I do like to leave them while the last job. So in the instructions for the Pilar jacket, it tells you to add them when you make the tabs for the side, also sort of down the front, and then when you're doing the cuffs. But I think if you're doing that, you're swapping and changing between the buttonhole function. And for me in particular, I use a completely different machine because I use an old machine, because I like the sort of 4-step buttonhole function on that one rather than the automatic one that just does it, because I feel like you've got more control over that. So I always get my old machine from under the bench and just set it up for buttonholes and do them all at the end. So you might wish to do that, not get an old machine out of course, but leave all your buttonholes till the end because it just saves a lot of swapping and changing. So the jacket, I'll show you now. I'm also going to pop it on, show you what it looks like on, and yeah, the details on it are just fabulous. So first of all, here it is on the mannequin. It's a really good fit. I made the 34, just a touch over. I sort of cut sort of in between patterns just to be on the safe side, but having made it up, I could have just gone for a straight 34, and it is such a nice fit. Now we've got these pockets here which are into this front panel. Now they are only small. I think they're more of a feature than usual. You could fit a few things in there, maybe a tissue and so on, but you wouldn't get your phone in there. So for that reason, I often add an inside pocket just here, just that I can slip my phone on the inside, but I'll probably be having a bag with me whenever I wear this, so maybe I won't on this one. It's got these pockets here. These are also functional pockets, look, with a button, look, facing, and a full functioning pocket. Might need to make, I've only cut it just ever so slightly, so not to make it too big. I probably need to cut that buttonhole a little bit more. And then I always hate putting on these jean buttons because one tap and they just go wrong, don't they? They go bent. And I have got the prim tool, but if you just buy any old buttons, then you can't always use that with it. I know somebody said you can, but you need the cups first of all, so I need to order some prim ones so that I've got the actual cup that it sits in and the tool that fits into the gadget. But for now I used a hammer and a block of wood, hammered them on. They went relatively well yesterday, but I do feel I've been sat on the floor doing that for too long because I felt a bit achy on my back when I got up because I did hurt my back last year. Shouldn't really be sitting on the floor leaning forward doing things. So yeah, I'm loving that. I added in binding, look, white binding on the inside of the facing and around across of the top of the back, as I said in my previous video, because I thought that just finished it off nicely. That's not in the pattern, I just added that on. Just thought it would make it look more finished. So that's that. We have the tab, or the vent, the little pointy tab on the cuff, same as at the front, and on the back. Oh, also, these pleats here are supposed to be more prominent on the outside. I did that to the inside because I just felt it looked better as more of a dart with the top stitching, so that's what I did on mine. I sort of flipped that detail round so that the more prominent part was on the inside. At the back we have this lovely vent. So I'm going to speak about that in a moment because I had to adjust something ever so slightly for that, and you might need to on yours, or it may just be my cutting, you never know. We've got a yoke here, and then of course you've got the facing there, which I've top stitched down round the back here, look, and that keeps that all nice and flat. Then of course you've got two-piece sleeve with the top stitching, and as I said, I love the details and it fits so nicely, so I'm going to pop it on so you can see it on. So here it is on. So you can see it's a good fit. This is what I meant about the sleeve, look. This fits me perfectly now. I've added a whole inch to the length of the sleeve for my particular arms. Now, this may just be me. I normally have to add a little bit to the sleeve, but not usually as much as that. But I have made Maison Fauve blouses in the past and found that they are always short and more than a little bit short on me. So that's just something to watch for if you're sort of long-limbed like I am. So yes, I've added a whole inch to this part before adding on the cuff. And I did that at the cutting stage because I had a feeling I was going to need to do that, and I thought I can always adjust it after, but you can't add on. So now that fits perfectly. The fit on the sleeve is good for me. As I said, this one is 34. So look, we have the buttons, it meets at the front. I'll tip it down a bit. We've got these tabs here. And you have the vent at the back, as I said, or rather the pleat feature. Now you can leave that off. You don't have to have that pleat at the back. You can have a straight sort of denim jacket style pleat if you like. Now I got a bit carried away and cut out both views. So when I was cutting, and when I was, I think I've got all these pieces. There were a lot of pieces, but I'd got one extra. So look, I cut out the straight back as well. So that is in there. I will use that denim fabric for something else, don't worry. Yeah, absolutely love it. And I think I'll have to have a look. I think I've got some blue fabric that was gifted to me a while ago that was never used. I may make another one because I just love it so much. I might do the other one with the plain back actually. I would highly recommend getting this pattern and downloading it, or even treating yourself to the paper copy if you wish for Christmas or a birthday or something, because it is just so nice. A lovely fit and just fabulous details. I'm going to sit back down and talk to you a bit more about the things that I changed. So something that I found when I was making this jacket was the back pleat didn't work out quite right the first time, so I made it and I popped on the yoke and I did line up all my markings. Now this is a print off pattern, so you could say, is it to do with the print off version? Or you might think how I stuck it together. But this particular piece, I'm going to show it you, here look, for the back, with the pleat in the back. The only piece that I stuck on was at this end. So it's not like I could have gone wrong with the sticking together here because there's nothing to stick together here. This was all on one sheet. So I know that that's correct. And I lined up my pleats exactly before putting them into, or adding them onto the yoke seam. But then when I came to hang it on the mannequin to look at it, the pleat wasn't hanging quite right. And I pressed it and it had been top stitched, and I looked at it and pressed it again and it wasn't right, and I could tell it wasn't right, and it wasn't going to hang right when it was on, and that would have just drove me crazy. So you don't want to spend all this time on a jacket and then have something that's just off, and you know it's off and it feels like a big glaring error, and something on the back like that that's not hanging right is going to really show up all the time. So what I did was I unpicked the yoke, and then where these sort of pleats meet, quite hard to show you on the paper pattern, you do need to have that, or you'll find on yours, just lay it flat, put the yoke on it, pin it to it or tack it to it and turn it over and check before you do your final stitching. They do need to stick up, I found. I had all mine lying flat and I thought, oh, that's how they're supposed to go, so that might have been my error. But then usually things do, if they've got pleats in, they're supposed to line up and then you stitch along the line. But with this one, they did need to hang over in sort of like points with a bit of overlap. And then once I did that and I stitched it again, it was all lying flat. And I could tell, and I pressed it, and then I top stitched the yoke down, and then it hung perfectly. So just check that. Don't ignore it. If it looks a little bit off, unpick it and do it again, because yeah, you won't be very happy with it when you're finished if that's a big error you've got on the back of your jacket. So that was one thing. As I said, the sleeves can be a funny thing. I know often they have points on the pattern where it says lengthen or shorten here. If it's something like just a small amount at the cuff, I always just add it in at the bottom. And I do that at the cutting out stage, and then you can always try it when you get to the point where you're going to put your sleeve on. And if it is too much, you just take that off again. But if you've cut it out too short, then that's it. You'll either have to make your cuffs bigger. That's one way of doing it, if you've made that mistake of cutting your sleeves too short. Or if you haven't got a cuff, you might have to add a facing on if it was a blouse or something, so that you don't have to take any up for the hem. So that's something else you could do. So it's better, if you know that you've got longer limbs, cut it out a little bit bigger to begin with, and then you can always adjust it later. So that was that. And then the other thing that I mentioned was these pleats that it has at the top here. So on those, you do them so that the pleat or dart, so usually you would do a dart to the inside, you do it so that it's showing on the outside more prominently. But I tried that and I didn't like the look of it, so I just took the darts to the inside, top stitched it on the right side, and I like it like that now. So really pleased, and another great Maison Fauve pattern. So this was, you get the print off, you've still got a lovely cover, so you could put it in a folder, and you've got all the detailed instructions. I didn't follow a sew along for this, but apparently there is one, because there's a barcode, not a barcode, a QR code there. So you can follow along with a sew along with them if you'd like to make it, and you prefer to watch along visually in that way. But yeah, the instructions are pretty good. So as always, you've got them in English and French on here. And I really enjoyed making it. I did it over a number of sessions because I wanted it to be a fun sort of slow make. So I've done it over the past week, and it was the week before that I cut the pieces out and then just popped them to one side because I had other work to do. Fabulous. Now, I've got a few Maison Fauve patterns that I've done for work at various points, and one of them that I'm going to alter actually is I have the trompe-l'œil cargo trousers. And the only thing I've found with those is when you have the pleats at the knee tends to bulge out a bit when you've worn them for a little while, and I really don't like that. So maybe in another video I'll show you what I'm going to do with those, whether or not it works out. I hope it does. I'm going to try and take all that out and make it so that it's more of a straight leg, because it just bothers me too much. So I love the trousers and all the details, but I don't like that knee feature with all the pleats and the sort of roominess around the knee. So maybe those kind of trousers are supposed to look like that, but I really don't like it. I would prefer it if it was just straight. So this one I made a little while ago. It has this lovely low scoop back and these lovely cuffs. So I made this one with this deep cuff with the buttons, and that was really pretty. So that was Le Blouse Cicadella. And again, I had to lengthen the sleeve for me because they're a little short otherwise. But that has got quite a deep cuff, so you could do it at that point if you wanted. This one, there was no need because this one is Le Top Marissa. Again, it was a work one, not for me. I may make it again in the future. And again, we've got a lovely pleat detail at the back. They do tend to like that detail in the Maison Fauve patterns, don't they? And then it's got sort of a mock closure of buttons here. And it's just bound around the front with a little vent at the front. But you can also have a button loop closure at the front. But you don't have to. It does go over your head without. So that's another nice one. But what I really like about the Maison Fauve patterns is the styling. So if you're buying them as a gift, I think they're just really beautiful visually. And some people might store them on a shelf like this. They look really nice. So yeah, I am a fan of the Maison Fauve ones. And as I said, they do have their own sew-alongs as well if you want to watch those. And then I've done a few of these over on Minerva for different patterns, so you could watch mine over on the Minerva channel here on YouTube. So yeah, whenever I do them, there's not only mine, if you like to watch mine, there's also the one by Maison Fauve. I have watched one and it was all in French, but you don't really need the language, you just need to see what they are doing. So can't remember what that one was for. I think it was one that I printed off for a free pattern once. I'll have a think about that, and I'll add it into the description if I remember it. So yeah, great patterns those. Now, I still don't know what I'm going to do with this piece. So this was the piece that I bought at the same time as I bought the pink denim for the jacket. So I was going to do Le Top by Atelier Brunette, but I've since decided I am not going to mess about making all those side ties when I'll probably have either a cardi or a jacket over it most of the time during the British summertime, and I think they will get in the way and annoy me. So it'll be one step I've spent ages on that'll probably never get seen apart from a few hot days. So I don't think I will be making that with this now. I have got a pattern I've made a few times. Where is this one? So this one is a similar shape. So this is a New Look 6483. I know that this one is a nice fit. And this one here has the same sort of shape as the Le Top by Atelier Brunette. Say that correctly. But you haven't got all that fuss at the sides. So I might be better off making that one. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing that today. I hope it's given you some inspiration if you're looking for a sort of spring summer jacket to make. And of course you can either buy the print version or the paper copy of the Maison Fauve jacket. So you can go on their website and have a little look, have a little think about which one you prefer. I know some people like to send the print ones off to print shop to be printed off in the larger version, so you don't have to do all that sticking together. So that might be something that you want to consider. So yeah, thank you so much for watching today. Bye for now.